Hello, dear friends, with you Naya. Today we will consider not one, but 3 mods at once. All of them are very small, but very interesting. In addition, they were created quite recently, just the other day. Created by the same developer, and in the same fantasy theme. So I think they were designed to be installed together. And since each of these mods adds only a certain kind of creatures to the game, it is very convenient for the player to decide for himself whether he wants to install all 3 mods or only a certain one. These mods are called with Community, and Goblin with Community. These mods do not require the installation of any additional libraries. Each of them can be installed individually or all together at once. As always, I will leave links to mods in the description under the video. Unfortunately, mods are only suitable for the Minecraft version 1.16.5. So, these 3 mods add 3 fantasy races to us goblins, trolls, and geographers. Of these, the most intelligent are the small goblins, and you can interact with them in quite a variety of ways. Stupider, but still not hopeless. A race of trolls. Sometimes you can trade with them, and in general, with one circular gyrus in the brain, a rasograph, it's not possible to communicate with these normally, but even from such creatures that do not shine with intelligence, there may be some benefit. So, let's look at all these races in turn, starting from the dumbest and ending with the most developed. The first mod is called Ogres Community and is added to the Ogres. So far, there are only 2 types of them, and they do not differ from each other very much. I would rather say that these are 2 different skins of the same mob. One of them is an ordinary ogre, and the other with a broken eye and a chain. Apart from the external differences, I didn't notice anything else. The models, in my opinion, are made passably. Of course, it's not super cool, but it doesn't suck either. Funny, of course, a little bit, but okay. Perhaps, if the developers are not too lazy, they will improve them in the future. There are these ogres not very often, and always in such stone huts. By the way, the shelter of the Ogres reminded me of the caves of Cyclops and Zesifari, though not so spacious. There is a huge ogre bed made of wool blocks, and 2 more chests, a large and a small one. In a small one, as a rule, there is food, but in a large one, there is a good chickpeas. Here you can find saddles, emeraldics, gold, iron, and so on. By the way, they manifest as neutral mobs. That is, they will not attack you until you hit them first. I don't know if this will be changed in the future, but at the moment it is. However, I do not advise you to climb up to them with your fists if you are poorly armed, because the life of the Ogres is decent, as many as 60 units, but it's not so easy to kill them. After all, throwing weapons, in particular the trident and arrows, do not cause them any damage. They won't even react to them in any way. Apparently the ogre's hide is so thick that arrows fly off from it without even scratching. Of course, you can try to fight with an ogre in hand-to-hand, but it will only work if you have good armor and powerful weapons. Otherwise, the eel will kick you before you do it. After all, his blow is not weak, and the attack distance is large, so we'll have to come up with some other way to deal with these monsters. I tried throwing explosive harm potions at them, and they kind of work, but they don't do much damage. So there's just not enough inventory to throw one ogre to death with such bottles. The most effective way to fight against the ogre was fire. True, it didn't work super cool in a bucket of lava, because the ogre turned out to be not completely stupid, and for the most part tried to avoid a puddle of spreading lava, only sometimes stepping into it. But the lighter, on the contrary, proved to be the best way. I just ran from the ogre and set fire to the ground in front of him. The ogre chased me and got into the flames, caught fire, and after he went down, I set him on fire again. Since the ogre does not walk very fast, it is not difficult to pull this off at all. After death, the eels drop ogre meat, bones, and skin. Meat can be fried and eaten. It restores 5.5 bones of hunger, and raw 3. From the bones of the og skins, weapons, tools, and armor can be crafted. An ogre bone sword is crafted in a blacksmith's table by folding an ordinary iron sword and 1 ogre bone. The resulting sword deals even more damage than a diamond sword. He has as much as 8 points of damage. The rest of the tools are crafted in a similar way, again in the blacksmith's table, but they have a damage parameter. And in some places, the speed is still worse than that of diamond, and even some iron tools. True, the axe and through the ogre characteristics are no different from a diamond axe. With a bone pickaxe, you can mine ores like iron, but you can't obsidian. But what gets better is the strength of the tool. Improving the ogre's bone adds 70 units of strength to your tool at once. Separately, it is worth considering the armor. They are also crafted in the blacksmith's table from elements of iron armor and ogre skin. Such armor, according to its protective properties, is a cross between iron and diamond armor. But an important bonus of ogre armor is the resistance to discarding. So I think going to hell is worth getting such armor. At least, you will be able to crawl along the edges of cliffs without being afraid that you will be pushed into lava abyss. This is the end of the content of the first mod. Let's move on to the second one. The second mod is called the Trolls Community, and trolls are added. They live in small forest camps and are found quite often in the world. The troll camp consists of 2 small tents made of blocks of multicolored wool, but usually not bright colors, but some white, gray, black, and brown. There is a campfire and skulls in the camp, and in the tents there are chests in which you can find loot. This loot is a less rich chemograph, but in addition to all sorts of junk, such as sticks and empty bowls, there are also iron ingots, food, and rabbit skins. So the traveler, especially at the beginning of the game, will have something to profit from. The trolls themselves are such creatures with long fangs and greenish-blue skin color. Although trolls look quite diverse, but in fact at the moment there are 2 types of trolls, a troll inhabitant and a troll warrior. They are quite easy to distinguish. Warriors walk around with hatchets that look more like tablets. It is better not to touch these guys. They are very dangerous, although they will not attack first. But with trolls, residents can be traded. Trolls are very fond of gold, but they are quite wild creatures, so trading with trolls happens in a very strange way. You need to take a gold bar in your hand and hit a troll inhabitant with it. At the same time, the ingot will disappear from you, and the troll, if he sees fit, will give you some of his goods. Well, that is, how will it give? He will throw it on the ground and chase after you, that is, for the lamb. So it's not so easy to trade trolls. Trolls have really valuable goods. There are golden apples, iron ingots of several pieces at once, emeralds, and even totems of immortality, so it's very profitable to trade with trolls. But keep in mind that the troll always takes the gold bar, but does not always give something in return. This happens randomly. By the way, when you beat a troll with an ingot of gold, his life is spent, so it will not be possible to trade with him indefinitely. In the end, you will kill such an unlucky merchant. It's impossible to trade with troll warriors. If you hit them with a gold bar, they will immediately attack, but the goods will not be thrown away. But fortunately, it is not as difficult to defeat a troll as an ogre, since they can be shot with an arrow. True, trolls run pretty fast, but if you have strong armor, then you can easily cope with them. However, you need to know that trolls are immune potions, no matter malicious or useful, and they don't get damaged from falling. A warrior troll has 37.5 lives, and a resident troll has 25. After death, trolls drop raw troll meat that can be fried. Fried troll meat quenches thirst, 4.5 bones of hunger, and raw meat only 3. And the last third mod is called Goblin with a Community, and adds a race of goblins and their settlements to the game. At the moment, this is perhaps the most elaborate mod of all of the above. What does it give? First of all, goblin hunting tents can now spawn everywhere in the world. They are small structures consisting of white wool and hung with flags. Inside, there is a single chest with all sorts of junk. Here you can find torches, mushrooms, dry plants, watermelons, and dynamite. A goblin hunter usually spawns near the tent. The main habitats of goblins are their small settlements. There are 3 types of them. On the plains, there are ordinary villages in which houses are made of oak. In the spruce forests, there are goblin villages made of spruce logs and planks. And in the birch forest, respectively, there are villages made of birch wood. Goblins live in such settlements, and they have many varieties. Moreover, some types of goblins can appear only in settlements, while others, on the contrary, only outside goblin villages. Let's now look at all types of goblins that will be executed in settlements. So, the goblin is a villager, the goblin is a bomber, the goblin is an archer, the goblin is a miner, the goblin is a woodcutter, the goblin is a warrior. Outside of villages may appear goblin trader, goblin hunter. I have already mentioned about him. He often spawns near hunting tents. All these goblins are conditionally neutral to the player. That is, they will not attack you until you are the first to show aggression. From peaceful communication with goblins, we players have the most direct benefit. The first is that you can trade with them, and sometimes it is very profitable. To do this, pick up an iron ingot and right-click on the goblin. Not without a click by accident. To trade with trolls, you had to click on them with the left mouse button. That is, beat them. But you don't need to hit the goblins, otherwise they will light up on you. So remember the right mouse button. In this case, the iron ingot will disappear, and the goblin will give you some random item in return. By the way, depending on the goblin's profession, he will give out the appropriate items. For example, a goblin warrior can trade you a goblin sword, and a goblin bombardier will sell you goblin bombs. The miner will give cobblestones, coal, emeralds, and even diamonds. And the situation is similar with other professions. But keep in mind that in addition to good goods, goblins will throw you any cheap junk. For example, flowers, meat, cobwebs, and so on. The second bonus of communicating with goblins is that they can be tamed. This is done with sweet berries. Just right-click on the goblin with the berries in your hand, and when the hearts appear, the goblin will be considered tamed. It will no longer be possible to trade with tamed goblins, but they will run after you. They can be used as soldiers. If you hit any mob, the goblin squad will continue the attack for you. Accordingly, if they hit you, the goblins will rush to intercede. If the goblins accidentally touch one of their own during the attack, then a real quarrel will begin. And this will continue until the perpetrators of the fight kill each other. But you can treat goblins with sweet berries in case of injury or potions, because unlike trolls, goblins have no immunity to potions. By the way, it will not work to tame the goblins that spawn in her villages, that is, wandering merchants and hunters. At the moment, the number of goblins on the map is not restored in any way. That is, it will not be possible to multiply them. So if you find a goblin village, take care of it like the apple of your eye. After all, if you lose its inhabitants, you will have to look for a new location. In the future, the developer plans to make mechanics that will allow you to cure zombie goblins, similar to how zombie dwellers are treated. In the life of the goblin settlement, not everything is as calm as it may seem at first glance. In addition to quite civilized goblins, there are also wild individuals. They spawn outside of goblin villages, while being very hostile to their own brethren. So when they see any peaceful goblin, they immediately run to attack him. It's good if there is a goblin warrior nearby who can protect the poor inhabitants. Wild goblins do not attack players first, but if you hit them yourself, they will certainly light up on you. Wild goblins don't have much life. There are only 8 hearts. It deals damage of 1.5 hearts. It is impossible to trade with them, to tame them too. Of the enemies of the entire goblin family, There is a terrible beast, a zombie goblin. This is the only goblin that is initially hostile towards the players too, and it will attack you as soon as they notice. They also spawn outside of goblin settlements. Unlike normal zombies, zombie goblins don't burn in the sun. They have 8 hearts of life and 1.5 hearts do damage. Zombie goblins are aggressive to all kinds of goblins. Even wild goblins are afraid of them. In addition, zombie goblins are able to infect other goblins with their zombie infection. So if a zombie goblin kills any other goblin, then that one will also turn into a zombie goblin. After death, they drop rotten goblin meat. If you eat it, the effect of hunger of the second level for 15 seconds and nausea of the second level for 5 seconds will be superimposed. When killing ordinary goblins, goblin meat falls out of them, which satisfies 2 bones of hunger, but at the same time imposes a nausea effect for a few seconds. If we fry such meat, then we will get a goblin steak, and it will already satisfy hunger for 3.5 bones, and there will be no negative effects. But it also remains to consider the goblin's weapons. As I said, you can trade goblins for their goblin weapons. The most valuable, in my opinion, is the goblin sword, which will be like a knife for you and me. And it is called, by the way, also a knife. It can be exchanged with a goblin warrior. It deals 7 points of damage, that is, like a diamond sword. A goblin archer can exchange a goblin bow in addition to an arrow of any junk. True, it is much weaker than an ordinary bow and removes something about 2.5 hearts. In addition to logs and everything else, you can buy a goblin axe from a goblin woodcutter. Of course, it is possible to cut trees with it, but it is definitely not suitable for war, since its swing is very slow, and the damage inflicted is even less than that of a conventional wooden axe, only 3 units. That is, he will shoot only 1.5 hearts. A goblin miner can be exchanged for a goblin pickaxe. It is quite comparable to a conventional iron pickaxe and is able to extract all resources fairly quickly. The only thing she can't get is obsidian, but defending herself in battle with a goblin pickaxe will be very bad, since the damage inflicted on her is only 1. Unlike the same vanilla iron pickaxe, which has 4 units of damage, goblin weapons do not have crafting, but they can be enchanted with any appropriate charkas. But the goblins also have a bomb. It can be exchanged with a goblin bombardier. If such a bomb is thrown directly at the enemy, then only 1 heart is removed from it, and if it explodes nearby, then the damage will be more, something about 2 hearts. In short, a fart, not a bomb. Well, that's probably all that these mods add at the moment. In the future, the developer promises even more fantasy races. In particular, the kobold race is about to appear. And here's a tiny spoiler in the form of screenshots. I don't know about you, but I was very intrigued by this case. I wonder what these kobolds will be like. Will they be even smarter than goblins or not? Anyway, race is out of fashion in the community. I personally really liked. Somewhat resembles the creature behind the Safari. By the way, goblin tribes were also promised to us there. Well, what do you think about these mods? Did you like them or not? If so, which race did you like the most? And what else would you like to add to these mods? Write your ideas in the comments. Don't forget to put your fingers up, because I try very hard to find new and interesting mods for you. Subscribe if you haven't signed up yet, and see you again, dear friends. Bye-bye.